Hi everyone, my name is John Green and I'm the Study Abroad Officer for the Management School. In today's In Conversation With, I have Nia Evans, the Alumni Engagement Manager for the Management School and former Study Abroad Manager. Nia?
Sorry, John, you said that in just such a really like Welsh accent twang then. Nia Evans?
It's Nia Evans. So, how are you? Are you well?
I'm very well, thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed that rendition of my name.
Excellent. So, as everyone can now tell, this is going to be an interesting conversation. My Welsh accent is obviously mildly offensive, so apologies to anyone who has found my interpretation of the Welsh accent to be anything other than ridiculous. So, Nick, it's great to have you with us in Conversation With. How are you? How's things? Have you got a brew?
Thank you very much, John. Yeah, I definitely have a brew in my favourite Hungry Caterpillar mug. All is well, thanks. Crazy few months that we've been living through the last year now, I guess. But yeah, all is well.
Excellent. So as you know, In Conversation With is all about all things study abroad. You yourself have studied abroad and you've also been a manager of managing mobility, so getting students to go and study abroad as well. So we'll touch on that in a little bit, but if you want to open us up with the first question of what type of study abroad did you do and where did you do it?
Yeah, so I studied at the University of Bath and I did European Studies and Modern Languages. So I studied French and Italian. So my study abroad experience was compulsory. So my third year of my 4-year university course was spent abroad. Basically, most students who study languages usually go abroad in their third year to basically improve their languages, really, because inevitably it's not that great until you've lived in the country, really. So I split my year. I did a Erasmus semester, so a study semester in Parma in Italy, where all the famous ham and cheese comes from. And then the second semester I did like a English language teaching assistantship. So I taught English to students in a French secondary school in a small town called Cholet in the northwest of France. It's just a proper French town, which is quite nice when you're on a year abroad, because sometimes you get sort of blinded by all the touristy places. Like you kind of think, oh, you know, I want to study in Rome or I want to study in Paris or something. But it was actually really refreshing just to be in like your bog standard French town where you've got, you know, your bakeries and everything like that. No one's speaking any English or anything. So yeah, it was quite cool to be somewhere where, you know, nobody kind of had heard of, and you felt like you got more of an authentic experience, if that makes sense.
All right, so let's start there then, because there was something I was going to say, but I can't remember what it is now. So let's start there. So with this authentic experience that you had, what's your favourite non-tourist place then that you went to on your study abroad?
Oh, favourite non-tourist place? That's a good question. I think it's not so much as like a favourite place, but more just kind of like the general day-to-day stuff that you would do. So like in France, obviously actually being in Italy and France, there were two very different experiences. Being in France, I think one of the things I loved was genuinely just popping along to your local bakery to, you know, pick up a bit of French patisserie or your daily baguette or something like this. Food is going to be a topic of conversation in this chat.
I mean, you're talking to the right person. Let's be honest. You don't get a figure like mine by taking it easy on the pastries. Like, you have definitely come to the right place if you want to talk food with me. I'm all about that.
And it's just, you know, you can't really go to France and Italy and not kind of have food as a highlight, to be honest with you. But for me, it genuinely was like the everyday stuff of just literally being able to pop down the road to your local bakery, coming back with this amazing, you know, smelling baguette, then getting some proper like French butter with, you know, like salt crystals in it and everything, and just literally going to town on that. It's just, you know, it's that kind of thing that doesn't seem particularly like glamorous, or doesn't really, you don't really think that this is going to be a highlight of your, you know, study abroad experience or something, but it can literally just be the little things like that that stick with you, because you genuinely start to then feel a bit more like a local as opposed to just someone being on holiday or just a tourist. You actually then get to think, oh, this is what it's like to live in a different place, in a different culture.
Of course. So, I mean, there's two things on that I want to just say. First of all, is that I've been to France once. I went to Paris once, and I thought I was, doing the general John Green thing to do, which was walk everywhere. And on my way, I decided to walk from my hotel to the train station, and I passed through one of those markets, that they have going on all the time in Paris. So I picked up some brie because I'm a big brie guy. I love my brie. I picked up a nice bit of brie and I was like, get that home and have that on some crackers. Oh yes, that will be the ticket.
It's the dream, isn't it?
That I obviously have to get on a train and go from Paris then to London, and then from London I then have to come back up north to Manchester. So I get to about, I'm gonna say, Staffordshire, and there is a pong on this Virgin.
Starting to hum, isn't it, John? It's like literally, is it starting to vibrate that it's smelling so much?
It's bad. And I'm sat there and I'm going, God, people in this country is going to the dogs. It is vile. People will get on a train in public, smelling, reeking. It's vile. And then I was like, oh no, that's my cheese. There's a big difference between like being on study abroad and living in where you are and almost being like a local and living like a local, that is just so different to being on holiday. Like, and it's something that, people, we see a lot of this in applications, like, oh, I've been on holiday to this place or that place, or, you see people, it's often quite precocious and pretentious people. And like, oh yes, and I went and lived in wherever, and he was like, you were there for 3 weeks. It doesn't count. That's not really a thing. What you've done there, you went on holiday. Whereas, obviously, like what you've done there, you went and lived somewhere. What was that like then? How can you describe that feeling of trying to fit in and be a local, as it were?
Yeah, it's a really good question actually, because it's a completely different kettle of fish. I think, going on holiday somewhere to actually properly living and experiencing there. And if I'm being totally honest, my year abroad experience in both France and Italy was a complete roller coaster. For me, it wasn't that sort of, like idyllic year of my life, the best year of my life, where I, kind of have the best, every memory is a fantastic memory, every trip was a complete laugh and everything. It was still a brilliant experience for so many reasons, which I'll touch upon. But I think for me, I went into my year abroad with really high expectations that this was going to be the best year of my life. This was where, it would just be the highlight of everything, really. And I think that comes from going on holiday, going to Italy for a couple of weeks, stuffing your face with pizza, hanging out at the beach, or doing all the touristy stuff. And so I kind of thought my whole year was going to be like that. Yeah. So then when you actually arrive and you think, okay, got to find somewhere to live now. And then you're like, okay, got to find out where to do my washing, got to find out where to buy my food, and got to make new friends, got to sign up for classes and stuff like that in a language which, I've been learning, but it's nowhere near the kind of like fluent level or anything like that. So I think the whole process of actually settling into a new place was really challenging for me. Like, I got pretty homesick, found it hard to kind of find my group of friends who I could, enjoy it with and do fun things with. That's not to say that I didn't or anything, but I did struggle to begin with, because it was such an adjustment, and I think I didn't probably prepare myself mentally for that. I just went in there. I was obviously apprehensive and nervous, because I think, you wouldn't be human if you didn't feel like that. But I went in there with really high expectations, and then very quickly it sort of came down to earth. Actually, this is going to be hard. This is going to be hard to settle in, to find my way, really, and to find my groove. So that was a challenge. But I think that is one of the key things that I probably took away from it, because it was so challenging.
Yeah.
I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about how to handle certain situations. I learned so much about what not to do in certain situations.
Okay.
So yeah, I think for me that's been like a key thing that I've taken away from my study abroad experience.
You mentioned there about being a bit homesick. Did that come from missing family? Did it come from missing friends? What specifically about home was it that you missed?
Yeah.
And then from that, how did you navigate around it? Because obviously it had such a profound impact on you. I'm not saying that you totally managed to hurdle it, but how did you navigate around that or live with that?
Yeah, really good question, actually. I think there are multiple reasons for that. Very close with my family, so obviously I miss them a lot. So it was, even though I kind of was away at university, so originally from North Wales and away at Bath, it's not particularly down the road or anything, but I think being in another country makes you feel further away. I was so lucky when I was at Bath in my first couple of years, had the best 2 years ever, and had made the best friends. So then not being around them and not being around my support network, if you will, was really tough. And then not particularly being able to find like-minded people where I was then doubly difficult, because I was missing those mates who I'd like really bonded with over the first couple of years, and then I didn't really have anyone in situ to help me out with it. So I think those were two key reasons. But then also, so I first went to Italy, and it was tough, because I think I made a mistake in where I was living. So really your home is where you live is where you feel safe, and where you go just to chill and relax and whatever. But I made a big mistake in where I lived. I ended up sharing a bedroom with someone. It was a flat of like 6 other people, I think, and it just wasn't the right setup for me at all, in the slightest. And my experience would have been a whole lot better if I'd have just blooming listened to my mum, and not had been so stubborn and just said, no, I'm just going to stick it out. It's only for a few months. It'll be fine. Like, don't worry about it. It'll be okay. If I'd actually listened and said to someone, I'm really struggling, I need to find somewhere else to live, that would have made my experience so much better. Yeah, and just thinking, I don't want to like. Do you know what's hard is that so I'm not on social media at all anymore, because I recognised it wasn't particularly good for me. But at the time, Facebook, this is 2010, I think. So Facebook was the whole rage and everything. And so when you're logging onto Facebook and you're seeing pictures of like your mates and other people on your course doing all these amazing cool stuff, looking like you're having the time of their life, you sort of don't want to admit to yourself that actually you're in a pretty rubbish place. And then, so for me, I think the idea of changing accommodation and trying to find other people to surround myself with was sort of like admitting defeat, which was actually the most stupidest thing I could have done.
Of course. I'm not sure if we just slightly lost you there on the recording, but if we have just lost you, I think I want to highlight the point that you've just said, because I could hear you, is that in the last kind of 10 years or so, we've really improved our mental health support and our awareness of what mental health is. And just because you have to make an adjustment, if I'm right in kind of paraphrasing what you were saying, that just because you have to make an adjustment for something that you're working on or something that you're living through doesn't mean to say that it's a failure.
I'm making it out to sound as if it was all doom and gloom. And I won't lie, there were times when I cried and I just thought, oh, I can't do this. But there were some really good times as well. There were some really fun, happy times, and some great travels and great people, great food, as I've said, and stuff. But I think resilience was just such a key thing, because I sort of feel like getting through that situation, being on your own, not having your family around you, not having, your best mates around you and stuff, you sort of feel like if you can get through that, you can get through anything, really. And even during this pandemic, I've sort of reflected on that and thinking, gosh, I'm actually quite glad I had this experience that wasn't the best all the time, because it helps me now, because it helps me think, things could be worse. I'm incredibly fortunate to be in the situation I'm in, and you know, things will get better. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and that sort of thing, really.
My next question is quite a simple one. Although you were forced is probably the wrong word, maybe a strong word, but because your year abroad was part of your degree and therefore you had to go, knowing what you know now, or your experience now and your experience then, would you choose to go?
Yeah, to be honest, for me, like, even though it was part of my course, that was the reason why I chose the course. Because, like, I grew up in a very rural, small town in North Wales, which is an idyllic place to be a kid and an amazing place to grow up. But, you know, when you kind of hit your teenage years, not much going on there, John. Like, your nearest cinema is like a 45-minute drive away and stuff. And so they got to the point where I was just like, I want to spread my wings, I want to travel, I want to, you know, see different places, experience, you know, different cultures and stuff. So that's why I wanted to study languages, really. And this is from a person who is actually quite shy and quite not always that great in social situations. You know, I was the type of kid who, like, wouldn't go to sleepovers or anything, but then one day came home from school and said, "Mum, I want to go on the French exchange." And she was like, "What? This is insane." But I did it. I've always been the type of person who, in spite of kind of anxieties and maybe lacking confidence for certain things, I've always tried to push myself to do those things, to push myself out of my comfort zone, so I can, like, have those great experiences and not miss out on stuff.
No, thank you very much for sharing that, because it's so far in a lot of our in conversation sessions, obviously we've focused on the really good bits, but like I said, I think a big part of studying abroad is about the support that we offer and having that element of trust. And the only way you can do that is to be open and honest. So I really appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyone who's thinking of study abroad, please don't take this as don't do it, because, you know, having been through the experience and coming out the other side, and there's still, we will get onto some like fun, happy memories, I promise you. But what was I going to say? But yeah, don't take it as that, you know, you shouldn't do it or anything like that.
For a little change of pace then, as we're on the upward trajectory, can you share with us, tell us what one of your favourite memories was from your study abroad?
It was when I was in Italy, and I really like football, and I really like watching football and all types of sport and everything. But we got tickets to go and watch Parma, the local football team, Parma, if you're being pretentious. It was an evening match, midweek evening match. Absolutely Baltic it was. It was so cold, so I literally I think I counted as about 12 layers on, because I knew this was going to be freezing. We all got on our little bicycles, because we all had bikes to get around the city. I bought mine for, I think it was about 20 quid. Looking back now, I'm pretty sure it was stolen when I bought it, but never mind. Pretty sure it was. So we, and actually not at all safe. None of us had helmets or lights on our bikes or anything, but we all got on our bikes and we trekked across town, tipped up to the stadium, which was kind of rocking, all in our like Parma scarves and everything. And it was just so much fun just standing on like the terraces, because you still stand up at, you know, Italian football matches and stuff, not all seated like they are here and everything, and just cheering on the side. It was fantastic. And I think it was, they were playing against Fiorentina, and it was like 1-1 or something like that. And then super sub, why are you laughing? My pretentious pronunciation of Fiorentina. Anyway, it went to extra time, and super sub. Do you remember Hernan Crespo?
Yeah, of course I do.
Crespo came on for Parma and scored like 2 goals in extra time, and the whole place went absolutely mad. Yeah. But then I didn't realise, one of my friends didn't realise there was extra time and just like left. Didn't even see the end. And the next day I was like, oh, it was a great match, great ending, wasn't it? It was like, oh yeah, I didn't realise it was time, I left.
Right, so now we are into full swing. We're moving up through the gear.
Okay.
We need to get onto food. Talk me through your favourite study abroad food, what it was, if it could be found in the UK, why is it better on your study abroad?
Well, the obvious thing in Italy is pizza, isn't it? Like, it's just phenomenal. I mean, you know how I feel about Domino's, Papa John's, and all that absolute nonsense, which, in my opinion, is just not pizza. It's just wrong, John. It's just so wrong.
Well,
So
slummy roll, right? Domino's garlic dip, and I'm sure that any student watching this can comment on the video, etc., and let us know just how right I am. Domino's dip is from the angels. You know, it's God's gift.
It's just blasphemy. That's what it is, John. So
I must admit, I actually prefer American pizza to Italian pizza.
First of all, you're a United fan, and now you're insulting Italian pizza. I think we can no longer be friends, John.
I love Italian pizza, and it is very nice. However, my preferred, it would be American.
Okay, so that was Italy. But then when I lived in France, so I was teaching in a French secondary school, and I didn't get like a proper wage or anything. I got like a bit of a stipend, but because basically I lived in the school, so I got bed and board, and I was thinking, oh God, I've got a semester of school dinners. This is just going to be horrendous. Like literally a whole semester of just eating like school crap food.
Yeah, but hang on, do you not remember when we were kids and we had like the chicken drumsticks and smiling
faces? Absolutely foul, John. Don't even get me started on that. But French school dinners are a different kettle of fish, my friend. Holy moly, it was like eating in a Michelin star restaurant. I was like, thank you very much. Tipped up, day one. How do you want your steak cooked? Rare, please. Thank you.
Steak?
Yes.
The school dinner?
Steak. School dinners. Honestly, it was absolutely phenomenal.
Let's keep going. Right, so what we're going to do now is you very kindly shared a photo with us about your study abroad. So what I'd like you to do is explain to us what's going on in the photo, who you're with, where you are, what's the score, what's the crack.
So this is me on a train in Italy. I am with, I think it must have been people who I was living with. So one of the girls was Polish. Her name was Barbara. I called her Babs. And yeah, so she had a Polish magazine. I'm assuming that's Polish. And so I don't know why she's holding that in front of me. But I just thought this was a really nice picture because it summed up. And also it was one that didn't show my face because I looked terrible in all pictures. But yeah, it sort of summed up my experience really, because particularly in Italy, because I wasn't really loving where I was living, I did loads of traveling. So pretty much every weekend I tried to hop on a train to go and visit somewhere else, maybe go and visit some friends who were on their year abroad elsewhere in Italy. So I made good use of the train system in Italy. Yeah, and it was really fun just to feel really independent, and this was before like smartphones were like a proper thing where you'd have to like look up the train times and rely on like your map and stuff like that and everything. No cheating with all like the Google and what we have now.
Sorry, did you just say the Google?
Yeah. No cheating with the Google or, you know, whatever we use now, or the Uber. No Ubers then.
Like Uber around then.
No,
days.
Exactly. So yeah, it was just kind of me and my little guidebook, traveling around, and that was a real highlight. I mean,
fair enough. All right, so we're coming to the end of our little bit of a conversation we've had going on. So my final question, eventually, we'll see how this goes. But my final question is, what one piece of advice would you give to any student who is thinking about doing study abroad, is unsure about study abroad, or after this is potentially terrified of studying abroad? What would your one piece of advice be?
So I think, again, I really don't want this to put people off at all. This was not the purpose of it. This was to have an honest conversation that actually study abroad is one of the best things that you can do. And my advice would be to totally go for it. but try and do your best to prepare before you go. And by preparing, I don't mean like, I mean, it's good to, do all the practical things, obviously, but I sort of mean like mentally prepare. So sort of go in there with the idea that yes, you're going to have fun. Yes, you're going to make really good friends. Yes, you're going to have amazing experiences, but the likelihood is it might not be like that all the time.
Right.
So if you prepare for that, you'll be able to enjoy the highs much more as well, because you'll be able to think, okay, this is something that possibly I anticipated might happen. I might feel a bit homesick. I might be struggling to, I don't know, find things to join that, will help me meet other people or whatever. But actually, I've thought about this in advance, and this is what I can do to help. And all the briefing sessions that we do in the study abroad team and that you do, John, that those sessions really help you with that. They give you really good hints and tips and give you some really good practical advice for how you can mentally prepare. So that would be my main piece of advice, really, is just do go for it, because genuinely, even though it was a complete roller coaster for me, it was still genuinely one of the best things I've ever done.
I want to say, Nia, thank you very much for coming along and being in conversation with us. It's been a pleasure having you. Thank you for giving up your time.
No problems. It's been fun.
And sharing your experiences. It's been great to find out some of the things that you got up to. I hope it's been enjoyable for you as well. So I will leave you go. I'll say thank you very much and say goodbye. Ta-da, mate.